YouTube, it's wrapped up. We have a box. We're gonna open it right now. This is something new and exciting, evidently. Of course, we never really know until we know. So, as you know, we have been doing our unbox, build, and radio setup separately. There's a piece of paper in here, so I gotta slide that out real quick. Ooh, look at that fancy. Some paperwork from the factory, it looks like. What is this? What? It's a Habu. Again? What? It's the Habu SS 50 millimeter. That is so strange. I thought there was one that was bigger than that. Yes, there was. And it looks like it's orange and gray, and it's got little stubby landing gear, as you can see from that. So I don't know, is this just like way smaller? This is 3S compatible motor with 30 amp Aviation Light ESC. So that means we should get thrust reverse on it, I hope. And then obviously, looks like it's about 700 millimeter wingspan. That's dinky. Okay, well, let's see how it looks. We're gonna unbox this right now and throw some radio setup action at the end of the build, obviously. So if you guys are looking for that, just go to the end of this video or group of videos. And obviously you've already seen the flight, and the flights are at the beginning and released so that you guys can watch them all at the same time. Let's get this thing unboxed. Okay, so got that slipped out. That slipped out pretty easy. I can tell this one came from a land far away because there was some extra stickers on the box.
There's a lot of stickers.
Yeah, so you can always tell when they're early samples. So they're, you know, sometimes the early samples have a little minor variations in the way that they're set up. So there's that. We have an exhaust tube with a couple of screw sacks. And then we have to pull this out. Looks like the tail, it's got that anhedral to it, which means it just goes down instead of well, that'd be a, yeah, anhedral instead of dihedral. Okay, so it's a split elevator. Control horns look good. Pinch hinges, people ask that. Looks like these decals are split as well, so they do not help to support the weight and strengthen that. Yeah, just a pinch hinge. Don't feel anything embedded in there. I get that question all the time on some of these planes. And to be honest, our experience with pinch hinges from Horizon has been very good. I don't know that we've ever had one break except for after a crash. I've had I remember I crashed a mall once, or I tripped into it and I broke a flap on it. And if you break a flap hinge, it's usually super easy to fix because I just taped it and it was done, okay? So really good packaging there. Everything is in here nice and tight. Looks like some good protection. I love the colors. The orange is cool. I wonder how that's gonna do up against the sky. The decals have a little bit of rippling here. Not a big fan of that. And it looks like we have a singular a singular plug here, which means that we only have one servo channel. They must plug in within this housing here. Probably serviceable by taking that off, and then you would have a Y splitter inside of the wing. So looking at that makes me think it's possible you could have some flaperons possibly there. And there is a nice place to grab onto the plane for hand launch, although I think this one's pretty easy to grab from right there too. And a cheater here. Strength is pretty good. It feels like this is a channel for the wires, but then directly, oh, nope, that's the wire actually. I can't tell where the spar is. There's definitely something in here. I just can't see very good. Maybe there isn't a spar. That'd be surprising. Well, anyway, we're gonna keep going with this build. Unbox, okay? So we're gonna pull the fuse out here. You know, I gotta say this nose looks better. I feel like that nose looks nicer. It's like more pointy and a little bit less stubby. And it's actually a hard plastic nose. Feel it. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
So that's nice. Okay, so the Aviation Light ESC there. Looks like that's 3 to 4S LiPo compatible. So why does it say 3S on the front of the package? And then looks like, must be 12 blades maybe. That is awesome. With a Spectrum motor in there. So far, so good. Oh, we do have screws that hold the wings on. I was getting nervous. It looked like it was gonna glue together, and I'm like, oh, please say that doesn't glue together. Glue is not a huge problem for some planes, and it's kind of a pain on other planes. any plane that would be considered a beginner plane, it's kind of nice to not have to glue, just because it is a little bit easy to screw up glue. Okay, so, manual on the bottom. So always check the bottom side, make sure that that exists. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this cut free real quick. So guys, if you're new to the channel, what we do here on Brian Phillips RCs, we unbox, build, and radio set up most of the planes we do. And then if we do modifications or maybe I crash a plane, we try to share kind of what I do to fix it. So some of the stuff you see is maybe not earth-shattering like the first time or the best or the fastest or whatever. We just show a real customer experience with these planes and what you can expect when you ship one to your house. And you know, if you think it's gonna be good. So that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We also show how we fly them and how they fly in air. It looks like a really nice manual as usual from E-flite. So we'll just go ahead and flip this open and peruse for just a quick second. I feel like it looks just a little bit different, like maybe the lines are a little bit cooler. This still has the huge wing cord, which is standard on the other two sizes. Of course, you've got the Habu SS, it's 6S or 4S compatible. And then the Habu STS, the SS is yellow and gray. The STS is red and gray, and of course white. And that one is a safe equipped. Actually, all of them have safe, but that is full safe. And you can do a landing aid sensor. So I'm kind of glad not to see. I'm just gonna like start putting this together because it's super easy. There's a lot of pins to line everything up. These connectors, always protect your connectors first if you can. Okay, so I'm just lining up all these pins. You see how there's pins right there? Just trying to kind of get everything seated because like the electronics don't give at all. Everything else you can kind of wiggle, okay? So that's definitely in now. Nice fit, really small size. Yeah. I like that. I hope the visibility is good because this thing is looking really beautiful and super simple to build. Oh, screws on the tail too. I was nervous about that, but it's definitely screws on the tail. So that just slides up in there. Nice. Okay, so really quick build so far. Obviously we have some screws here. I'm just gonna get rid of this foam now because we're done with that. All right, so inside of a landing gear bag, I am still a little bit torn. I've been thinking this whole time, am I gonna put the landing gear on or am I just gonna screw it together? You do hand launch. So you can obviously do hand launch. This is the nose gear assembly. You can tell by the servo control horn. And then of course the main landing gear are super easy to put in. And then the tail, exhaust, decorative cover, and also that's gonna help kind of keep everything combined. And there's a little bit of tape here. Comes with, looks like 4 little squares of tape. I don't know if you guys can make that out. You wouldn't have to use that exact tape. You can use whatever tape you've got. And then of course inside of here is where the electronics are, which we're gonna actually come back to that in just a second because I wanna go ahead and get the screws in here. Looks like they're all Phillips. You wanna show them a close up of that, maybe pop those open if your hands are free for it. I was charging a 4S and a 3S battery, so I guess I'm not 100% sure what we need yet.
This recommends 3S 1300.
3S 1300?
That's what it says.
Really? Okay, so let me see if I can dig out a 1300. We'll show you what we're gonna try to use. This is probably what we're gonna use. 3S 1300. Okay, so we've got these smart batteries. These are all Gen 1. You can tell by the balance lead that's here. The Gen 2 would just have this. So we're gonna go ahead and plug this in. The S155 is a great choice if you guys are just kind of getting into the hobby, just starting off. It's real inexpensive. You don't have to go into something like this right away. But if you know you're gonna be in the hobby, just go for the S2200. You will definitely be happy with it. You can charge 2 batteries. This has the bigger plug, but I only have 1 battery with the IC5 that is sub 4S or sub 4S, okay? So this thing will charge through the IC5, but in most cases on this one, you're gonna be going into the IC3 here. Okay, so I'm gonna just plug that in. You can actually charge it without the balance lead, but I'm gonna go ahead and just opt to plug in the balance lead. This is 1300 3S, it's a smart pack. It knows all the settings because I've set it up and then it automatically discharges for a period of time. Looks like these ones are done, this one's done. And then my channel 1 is almost done. If you want to switch sides, I can start plugging in. So this one is done. And if you're not sure, press the down arrow and you can see if it's still balancing your cells. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and assume it's done. Unplug that. This happened to be a 3S2200, so I was curious if that would fit, and I just sort of guessed on what we were gonna get. I kind of knew it was coming out of the box, I just didn't know anything about the specs yet. So let's plug in the balance lead first and show you how that looks. And then we're gonna plug in the smart lead, or the discharge lead that has the smart pin in it. Okay, so it's starting. Okay, so let's go ahead and fire up this other one. You can zoom out there. So this is the S1200. So this is a single channel, 200 watts. This is two 200 watts. They also make an S1400, which has a 400 watt single channel. And then if you want the big dogs, you come over here. This is a 500 watt charger. This thing will do tons of power. It's a 30 amp. And then this one here is a single 200 watt up to 8 amps. I've charged at like 18 amps or something on this. It's crazy fast. So if you, and plus those are good for DC applications where you're plugging them into like a car battery. You know, you can plug these into a car battery and then you can charge if you're at the flying field or you've got some sort of other apparatus. So as I can see on this one here, it looks like, I want to see if I can start that one. Abnormal balance port, that's always nice. So if you ever have one that's abnormal, you can see how it's like 1.23, 1.21. So sometimes if you get one like that, I usually try to reset and then see if it picks up. Now it's not going to pick up. So I want to talk about that for a really quick second. Remember, this is the Unbox Build radio set. If you've already seen this plane fly, I'm sure this battery is gonna be fine. But what happens is occasionally, if you don't use them for a while, the smart circuit will discharge to the safe level that you set, 3.9 on a Gen 2, 3.8 on a Gen 1 by default. And then occasionally it will drop out of range on one of the cells. So you have to kind of boost it to get back up. So obviously you wanna figure out your safe method for doing that, but generally I just go in and put a little bit of juice to this port as though it was a different type of battery chemistry, charge it for a few seconds to bring them within range, and then I just plug in and charge as usual. So I'm gonna do that off camera real quick, just because that's one of those things where if you are gonna do it, just do it in a safe place. Make sure you have a fire resistant countertop, do it out in the garage, somewhere safe, not next to your gas cans, obviously. And you know, don't lay in bed and smoke your cigarettes while it's charging wrong, because that's pretty dangerous. So I'm gonna do that now. So remember, all we have to do is, this has a smart circuit that's right here underneath this thing. And that is balancing all three of the cells, even though you have a balance port here. On a Gen 2, it's a little bit more fast and a little bit more powerful in terms of keeping the balance between cell 1, 2, and 3 that are in series. And that's why you have 4 wires on these if you don't know anything about battery technology and lithium polymers. Also, just to keep in mind, if this thing was round like this or puffed or anything like that, I'd be more concerned. Or if I had frays or damage in the cable, I would be more concerned about catching one on fire or having damage. So just definitely double check before you would go through this process, because if you have a battery that's damaged, you may want to just dispose of it safely rather than going through a restoration like this. The restoration process will take me like 2 minutes. So we'll pause and do that. Okay, so see here, guys, I just basically started it without the balance lead, and I actually left it set up as is, okay? So I had it set to 3S, and I'm charging it at a certain rate. See how they're low? That happens sometimes when you have the battery disconnected for some time, okay? So, and I'm sorry, the exposure is really tough to film on those ones. Okay, so now we're gonna back up. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and just go back or press this, and I can scroll down and I can probably hit start and I can continue without a balancing, okay? So what that's gonna do is that's just gonna force the voltage into these cells, and then it's gonna be balanced, and remedial action will be taken by the circuit that's in the battery to balance the cells. Interestingly enough, you press the down arrow and you can see your individual cells. Look, we're at 2.9 already. So at this point, what I'll show you is this is what it would look like if you now took this at 2.9 volts per cell. Very much discharged, but it's not like you over discharged it in a flight and you drew it down fast. That's when you really tempt that chemistry's fate. Okay, so remember it wouldn't find this. Watch, now it should find it. See, it knows what it is. It's a 1300 it's a 3S 1330C, so it knows this battery now. What happens is when it's outside of the normal operating range, it fails to start because it knows it's a 3S based on that smart lead, but it doesn't see the third cell or the second cell or the first cell, whatever's dropping out of range. Okay, so now this thing could start. I'm gonna just insert the balance lead and show you what happens. So we don't talk about this tons because we don't run into it that often. This just happens to be for us a kind of an off size. So it's gonna initiate the smart charge, and this will just go like normal. It'll be at 0% for a little bit because it's maybe a little bit over discharged, okay? And you can see that 0.4, it's building up. And then if you press the down arrow, you can see it as it goes. So it's really nice to be able to see that information as you're working your batteries. Just keep in mind that batteries are one of those areas where you want to be extra careful. We have hard surfaces and we are present with the charge. Okay, so getting back to the point, we've also got a 2200 3S that might be kind of cool to see how it does. So getting back to the build, apologize for the little detour there, guys. That's what we do here on Brian Phillips RC. We're talking about different things that might be helpful to you as a hobby enthusiast, just like us. I'm actually gonna go ahead and throw these 2 screws in the back. We have some small ones, we have some big ones. I think it's fair to assume that the small ones are probably on the back, but let's go ahead and look at the instructions. Of course, there's an AR631 installed, which is pretty cool. It's a very good receiver. Looks like they show a lot bigger than a 1300 right there. Okay, and then it looks like we're looking for the assembly. So it says to use the 8mm for this, and then to use the 10mm for the main wings. Okay, my assessment was correct. So they gave us 3 screws, so I'll dump those out on the table here or the counter. I'll grab myself a Phillips screw driver. And I'm just gonna go ahead and slide these in here. This should be a pretty easy build. This is a little bit wonky right now because I don't have that plastic ring on there yet. So I'm just gonna hold this down. Okay. These are Phillips and not hex. You could use a plane stand if you wanted. If you don't have a plane stand, a small plane like this really doesn't need anything, but it's sometimes nice to have like a blanket or a towel or something that you can roll up and put on the counter, and then that makes it a little bit easier on the foam sometimes. Okay, now show them what's going on. You see how I've opened that with my fingers? Look where the tip is. It didn't go through. So that sometimes happens when you drop your screws down in, and then you got to get it to line up. Did you guys see how that worked? I just kind of worked the tip until it fell through the opening. And now that it's fell through the opening, it's a super easy process of just tightening the screw, but it's not much to push against. So what I'm having to do is I'm supporting this with my middle finger and my index finger here so that I've got good support as I penetrate with the screw plastic to plastic or steel to plastic or whatever it is. Okay. So now I also notice I can feel a bulge here and they've taped over that. That bulge is actually the screw coming through the other side of the receiver. So with my index finger in this case, I can feel it, and it's just kind of thin there. So be careful as you tighten this. Don't overdo it, I guess. All right, that's a little bit unusual. I'm not used to seeing that type of thinness, but light planes make for good flying planes, generally speaking, okay? So then that's gonna go like that. And then what are they suggesting for attachment? Oh, just tape it?
I would guess. Yep.
Okay, so now you could use tape, but I'm gonna go ahead and use what's provided. This should be pretty easy. That is extremely thin. I like to use a screwdriver or an X-Acto knife to apply these because then I keep the oil off of my hands. Okay, I'm gonna go right here, I think. And yes, that wing is not attached yet. So everything's just kind of slipping here. This is slick. I hope that tape holds. Yeah, it seems to be holding. In fact, we're gonna do the rest of that after I get this wing attached. Awkward to do that. All right, so we're flipping this over. We're gonna let that vertical stabilizer hang off the counter. I'm just gonna make sure it doesn't fall. Camera crew and I are gonna play hot potatoes so we can get in the right position. If you just kind of keep a hand there to spot it. Boy, look at all that, you See all that
Yeah, I know.
reinforcement? That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Is that a vent? Is that an active vent?
It is. Yep.
Look at that, guys. Right in there. Very good. It's another cheater too, I'm sure. Okay, now these are the bigger screws. You can kind of see the difference in size here. This one's a little bit smaller, but it's not a huge difference in size. Whichever one's smaller is the one that you want on the tail, and whichever ones are bigger is the ones you want up front. Okay, so I got lots of screws here. And we generally review our planes wheels up, wheels down, which means that we will actually fly them from landing gear on the aircraft. Even if it's a belly lander, you can take them on and off. We generally lean toward flying with wheels because I enjoy the process of taking off and landing a lot. Okay, so these are going perfect, really no problem at all. So far I've got 2 tight. And some of you guys are like, well, you should do a star pattern or something. Yeah, you don't really need to do that with foam planes. There's quite a bit of play on this material compared to other materials like steel or aluminum or, you know, like a wheel on a car. So just go and screw them in and you'll be fine. There are 5 screws, incidentally, and they give you 1 spare. So if you drop one in the grass, it'll be gone forever. I guarantee you won't find it unless you have a magnet or
me.
yeah, Megan does tend to. Actually, the weird thing is we crash so much out here. We're always finding random weird pieces to airplanes like months or years later.
Yep.
We'll be like, what's that prop? And then somebody throws it on the counter. And I'm like, oh, that's the prop from this or the prop from that. I can pretty much always tell, which is weird. That's a bad problem to have, by the way. It's a bad skill to have because that means you crashed a lot. Although, to be honest, crashing is part of the hobby. Okay, so we've got 2 screws there. Just put those aside. All right, so while we're under here, first of all, let's just look at how cool that looks. That does look pretty sweet. And I gotta say, I think that looks better than the other Habus. I don't know why. I'm actually pretty happy with that. It just feels like light on its feet, which is good. So I'm excited about that. I actually really like that they used black tubes here. That's kind of cool. I don't know if that means they're carbon fiber to make it lighter, or if that just, they happen to be gray so that it's got that cool appearance to it. But I think it kind of mimics all the details on the plane. I think it's gonna look really nice. So I'm excited to see this fly. I'm a little bit concerned about 3S though. 3S seems like it could be on the tame side. So let's go ahead and keep taping while we're elaborating on our thoughts. What are your concerns with this plane, camera crew?
Concerns?
Yeah, you've already seen this plane fly.
Mm-hmm. I do like the orange. I'm curious to see how it's gonna film, just from like my standpoint.
I like the black on the bottom. I wish there was a little bit more of it. I think it would help with visibility. We'll see how it does. Sometimes when we film these things, it's like we never know what we're gonna get, but I can say both Habus really impressed me with how easy they were to fly, but they still rolled out for quite a while. So if you don't do thrust reverse, and that's the thing is I don't know if we're gonna have thrust reverse yet, but I know I definitely 100% use the thrust reverse on my Habu SS, and on the STS, I don't believe there is thrust reverse. Or if there is, we may not have that channel available because of the other stuff going on.
I just feel like this is such a good size class for a lot of people if they're tight on space.
Or they're tighter on budget.
Yeah, either one. Big planes take up a lot of room.
And money.
Yep.
So let's be real, guys. Everything's kind of getting crazy expensive, but that looks sweet and super easy build. Let's see if it looks okay with the squat tires on it.
I think we should do the gear, but I have a feeling you probably will take them off. Do they just snap in?
They're supposed to. Very scary to snap those in though, I gotta say. Not instilling confidence when I do that. So I'm gonna support here. I'm gonna do this a little bit different. See, there's no flap, so it is actually pretty easy to hold here. I should have done that before. If you hold in the wing root, you've got a lot more support from the foam. Over here, it's pretty supportive. It's strange, I didn't see any reinforcement, but the thing feels like it's got reinforcement in the wing. Because if there was nothing in there, you'd think you'd see more bounce. So it feels like it might be okay for support. We'll see how it looks in the air though. Okay, so nose gear. Obviously we're gonna have to take this off because that is not gonna go through the hole, as you see. I'm assuming we have to take this one off, so let's go ahead and just do that. Let's pull the top off. Okay, so that's like a modified control horn. Okay, so definitely not like a conventional one, so don't break it. Spring, I want to go back. Okay, you could technically do it either way. I want it to go back. I don't know if it's gonna be a choice, and they are kind of squat, so that's actually better. I just wish the nose gear was smaller. And as with typical aircraft that have EDFs, it is gonna lean back. So camera crew, I need your help. Just put a hand underneath that. Okay, so let's first time looking inside. Cool, magnets, lots of stuff going on there. That's not necessarily amazing. Okay, so we have a Horizon Hobby logo here. And then this needs to go like that, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and slide this on. It looks like we were on the outside, maybe well, let's check the manual. The manual is gonna tell us what hole it needs to go into on this thing. For the steerable nose gear, looks like they want us to put it in the outside, outermost hole. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm just gonna go ahead and hold this, put it in the outermost hole, and then rotate it around. As I do that, then I can drop this back down. But just, it feels like we're gonna interfere with that spot. Do you see what I'm saying?
It does.
So I guess, hopefully it tightens down. Yeah, it looks like it's just gonna clear. Okay. I guess I will take the victory because I was assuming defeat was going to be imminent. So let's check out, guys, that was a really easy build. Okay,
It was.
so the build is done. There's your AR631. We have a Spectrum digital servo here, which goes to the elevator linkages. Oh, and then look at this, guys. Check this on yours. See that? That ESC line needs to be pushed down, guys. Wow, that was like in a precariously bad spot. You see where that is? I do not like where that is. That is not okay. I want that down. I'd rather have the ESC lead up there than that one because you could cut that. Okay, so let's just go ahead and go with it for now. We'll see how it feels. That is really tight, man. Not sure I'm a big fan of that part yet. Let's see how it goes. I do know that the Habu, did we have pretty good time getting the battery in that?
I think we did. I don't remember it being especially.
I don't remember it being like a terrible thing. I know we had to edit the elevator. You remember how we had to do that? Some carving.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, if you remember that, I'm sure we did.
No, we did it on both. It was an easy carve job. So if you guys have one and you're like, I don't have enough elevator authority, watch our videos for the Unbox Build radio setup for the SS and the STS. You can see what we did. It was an easy mod, but oh, look, we're at 3.7 volts per cell on that one that we recovered from death. And you can see it's at like 13% now. So as you can see, no funny business. We just want to teach people here on this channel. Sometimes, you know, because we work with all these big brands, you know, sometimes people assume that we have some sort of an ulterior motive, like selling a lot of planes so we can fund our channel. Well, that is not ulterior. We do that. That's how we do it. So if you guys like the planes, which by the way, it's, oh, I missed it. This thing will stay on forever after you unplug it.
Oh.
It's like the demon possessed charger.
Good to know.
I always think it's hilarious. So if you hear like ghostly noises at night, it's the charger.
Okay.
It's like, wake up and charge your batteries. Okay. All right, cool. So we've got this battery done. Now this is the one that you want to use when you're ready to catch it on fire because that's a 4S. But I charge it just in case, you know. Can't blame me. All right, cool. So let's mark CG. CG, of course, is going to be in the manual. Camera crew is going to look for that. We'll grab a marker, get that thing marked, and then we're going to jump into radio setup shortly thereafter. What do you think? Black, probably?
Yeah.
Ooh, I have orange.
Either one.
Orange. Or is black going to look better where we're marking?
Depends on where you actually mark.
Simple as this, just a couple of markers. Nothing super fancy.
Did
and we're
you
going to
grab the calipers?
Not yet, but I will.
63 plus or minus 7.
Plus or minus 7?
Why does Horizon make me do math on camera?
14 millimeters
Yeah,
of
that's
play?
a huge
That's
range.
huge. Well, you know what? It was huge on the first one too.
Was it?
Yep.
So does it not care?
To be honest, I didn't really think it was just like CG indifferent.
Yeah.
No, that's not true because we had to modify the elevator because we wanted to fly it within the range.
This has a 1300 should be installed all the way forward in the battery compartment, and a 2200, which is listed here, should be installed center of the battery tray.
Okay, so we're gonna zero this thing out, and then we're gonna go to what is the beginning measurement?
63 plus 7.
No,
Plus or minus 7.
63 plus or minus 7, okay. So 63 plus or minus 7, it's from the inside of the wing root here. Okay, so you said 63?
I'm just reading.
So it's 70?
Yeah.
Wow. So 70. Okay, so here's 70. Trying to kind of get an equidistant point for my marking. Okay, I'm gonna go with orange for now. Okay, so orange looks kind of bad. I don't know if
You
that's...
can do black over it.
Yeah, well, you can't do orange over black,
Nope.
so that's why I started where I did. Okay, so you said 63 minus 7, of course, would be 56, right?
Yes.
So if we do 56 for the front mark, that is a huge range.
Yeah, it is.
For a small plane. Sometimes we have bigger planes, and the CG range is like smaller than that. Okay. So we'll just do this. As you can see, the foam, I just noticed this, it's got a nice smooth finish. There's only a few of these little mold release bumps, but I did notice when I was trying to mark that, there was kind of bigger balls. So the bigger balls sometimes make it harder to make a nice clean bump so that, you know, and then the higher density foam, the balls are squished together tighter. So these ones are a little bit more relaxed, which means that you are gonna have a less damage prone wing, in my opinion. It will be a little bit more forgiving if you have a rough landing and it tumbles into the wing. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's good and bad. Good in that you might get a little extra protection from damage. Bad in that, you know, it's not quite as dense, and so you have a little bit more of those like imperfections there that you have to kind of look at and see. So in my opinion, it's definitely, I always like form over function on these planes. Excuse me, I like function over form on these planes. And that's part of the reason why I'm so hard on about flaps and LEDs, which you will note neither. So that's a bit of a bummer, but it is what it is. We're gonna see how well it flies. I'm guessing it flies really good because I really want to believe this is gonna fly really good. Okay, we should have full range telemetry, or at least they call it flyby telemetry with the 631. 637 would get you into the full range. All right, so the next step is gonna be to do radio setup. We're literally at radio setup already, which is crazy. I have one of the 1300 3S's right here. So that's all the way forward, you say? So we're gonna turn this on. I'm gonna switch whatever model comes up. I'm gonna just hit the back and scroll all the way down to add new model. And I'm gonna create an acro, okay? And then while that's creating, I'm gonna drop this battery into the opening because I'm sick of that thing tipping up. Our other ones did too. I remember that pretty, not so much vividly as I definitely do remember it. Okay. So looks like they gave us good straps. The straps are modified, look at that. See that? That's cool. Haven't seen that before.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for somebody thinking about that finally. I like that, a lot easier to do. That's cool. And then I'm gonna fold it over onto itself. Oh,
Nice.
yes.
Hopefully that's a new thing.
A new addition. Yeah, maybe they're like easier to, I don't know. They don't seem to pop out as easy. Okay, so let's test that and see if that's gonna hold. Obviously on the front we're good because it's held up against a bulkhead. I'm gonna grab, this thing is slick, so be careful. Let's hold still. By the way, if your plane does that, it's because you crashed.
Yes.
I mean, even if you go up and stall, it's gonna be a gradual acceleration or deceleration depending on which direction you're talking about. All right, so we've got the plug here for the smart battery. And what I'm gonna do is just check CG quick. And if you're curious, if you wanna get your battery lead to kind of sit where it's gonna be when you plug it in, but you don't wanna plug it in yet, you can just do one or the other. In my case, I'm doing the round one, which is the negative. And then you can simulate exactly where that wire is gonna go. Very strong magnet,
Yeah.
good fit. Okay, so we've got the CG marked. Currently I'm on the back set of holes and I am tail heavy. And on the front side, I'm tail heavy too. Okay, so I guess they're saying all the way forward. They said all the way forward, so guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna test it tail heavy so you guys can see how terrible it is. Also, I'm not gonna plug in these elevator controls until we get our radio setup done. So 2200, just because I know you guys are gonna ask, should balance this thing out because I can already kind of tell just how it's balancing. So we'll definitely try to get you a flight for both of those. But in the meantime, let's set up the rest of the radio setup. Maybe I should come around there today. We've got some sun that's just at that perfect angle for us right now. So I'm gonna bring the manual. E-flite does a great job on their manuals. This one's not folded. Thank you, E-flite. I hate folded manuals. And yes, you do send quite a few that are folded, so shame on you for those folded manuals. If I'm gonna pick a problem to have with an airplane, it's folded manuals. That's pretty easy to get over. Okay, so first things first. Ironically, our colors are black and orange, so that works out pretty nice. Actually, I kind of love the way that looks, except for the nose wheel is so huge. Huge. I don't even mind the mains are big. I don't mind that. The thing that's nice about big wheels is that big wheels means you can fly off of more surfaces. So it's a trade-off that really, honestly, it's probably better to have bigger wheels, even though I want them to look cooler with smaller wheels. It's gonna make it function a lot worse. And if you're flying off the grass or whatever, I would suggest just take them off. And by the way, it's one screw and then it just comes out. It's not hard and it's a Phillips screw. Okay, so let's look at this. Hand launching, they show where to stick your fingers, like which holes to stick it in. Oh, that's interesting. There's the fan. Okay, it looks like we've got the destruction instructions back there. Dual rates and control throws if you're doing a plug-in fly. In our case, we're showing the bind and fly. Shows where your holes are for the nose gear and or the rudder, because that is a little bit of a nuance there on that plane. Would have been really nice to see that be quick release with no screwdriver, but what are you gonna do? You can't get every feature on all these planes. Okay, everything so far looks good. We're definitely supposed to go to the outside hole on the elevator, so we will respect that shortly. And forward programming for safe, select setup, and then telemetry setup. Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're just working our way, I mean, because like normally people read left to right, I just kind of read wherever it goes. Okay, here we go. There we are, finally, NX series setup. Okay, so this is where it shows you your setup instructions. Okay, powering your transmitter, click the scroll wheel, roll the system setup, click the scroll wheel, choose yes, we already did that. We added a new model, we did an acro. We need to put the name in, go to the main screen, click the scroll wheel to go to the function list. Okay, so this is where we actually have to set stuff up. They're suggesting a high rate of 100 with an expo 10 and low rates at 70, expo of 5. Okay, we're gonna do our dual rates the way we do dual rates, okay? It looks like they've got that set up for all three of the control axis for pitch roll, roll, pitch, and yaw. And then the throttle cut is minus 100. Okay, so super, super simple setup. There's like hardly any setup on this model, which is why that's so simple, okay? So we've already created our model. This model type's already set. If you change, it's gonna reset everything model name. Of course, here is where you type in Habu. So I'll just scroll and type. I use the legacy keyboard in case you guys are wondering, and we'll be right back when we're done typing. All right, so we've got the Habu SS 50mm, which size class on EDFs is generally sized by what size the actual fan blade is, which is a little bit weird. If you're new to the hobby, you'll start figuring out kind of what sizes go with what. Planes, and whether it's, you know, like a dual EDF, if it's gonna be, you know, a 64mm, you're gonna end up with like a 1000mm plane. And these types of things you just kind of get used to with a little bit of practice. But for now, if you're not sure, just go to Brian Phillips RC and we will tell you. Okay, so Habu SS 50mm, and the aircraft type, we already have normal wing type set, but we can change this image to closer match what the plane looks like, which is kind of cool. It's not like you have to do that, but there you go, Habu. We're not gonna mess with flight mode at all yet. Maybe we need, I'm not sure if we need to. Did they talk about it? No, they didn't talk about it at all. So let's just do dual rates and expo. Okay, so I'm gonna show you my standard setup on switch F. We're gonna do 5. Then we're gonna do 10, and then we're gonna do 20. And we're gonna drop the rates down to 90. And you're like, but Brian, the manual says to do this. You can do it the way the manual says, or you can do it my way. And this is largely a preference thing to begin with. So you wouldn't have to set up anything, but if you have a computerized transmitter and you don't set this up, you're kind of crazy, because this is like one of the biggest features. Okay. 5, then 10, then 20. Okay, so we've got all three set up, except I got to drop this rate down like that, okay? So we're in the middle setting where we're going to take off. If we need more, we can go down like this. If we need less, we can go up like that. So we have a medium point, so we have a get out of jail free card. Throttle cut, set to inhibit. I'm going to set that, oops, to switch H. Look at the throttle stick. It's working, it's working, it's working. See how it's switched it to the throttle stick? I got to actually make it go to switch H, acknowledge the entry, and then you can see it's working down here. Okay. Now it's working free. Okay, cool. All right, then we're gonna go to timer. Do we need a timer on this? Because it has...
Over here under the telemetry setup, it says
3.45. Okay, so we'll go to this. Shouldn't need this, but I'm gonna go ahead and set it to 345 anyway. How do you set 45? Can't even type it in. So I guess we're not gonna do 345. And we're gonna turn one out on. That means when we go over 25%, it starts counting down. Okay. Then we're gonna set all of our choices. At 20 seconds, nothing. At 10 seconds, I want a voice countdown. At expiration, I want tone and vibrate, and then a tone every minute thereafter. Okay, and then there's some other things that we're gonna set up here. But for now, I'm gonna throw the throttle cut on, clear the timer, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and bind this plane. Binding, of course, is when you teach the receiver what transmitter it's talking to and which transmitter, what receiver it's talking to for a given plane. So it's a pretty easy process. We're operating within DSMX on this, which is the protocol for transmission and reception, because there's transmit and receive on this and the receiver. Okay, so they do talk back and forth. Okay, so it's not like in the old days where you transmit it, receive, and there was no feedback. That telemetry is feedback. All right, so the battery is already right where we want it, even though it's not got the CG where we want it. There is a little bit of room up here if you had to add more weight, by the way. Look at that. There's a pretty big cavity up here, but I believe you want to leave some of that open for airflow. So in this case, what we're going to do our binding, we're just going to leave the throttle cut on, stick down for throttle. We're going to unplug this and just go ahead and go right into the battery lead. Okay, so it's plugged in now. We're going to wait and let it sit still. I'm going to reach in here carefully and press this button. It's hard to tell if I'm making it or not. There it is. I heard the click. See, so now it's flashing. So now I'm going to click into the function list, go to bind, bind it. Okay. So one dance. That means safe is not active. Auto configuration is happening for telemetry now. Okay. So let's go ahead and set up safe. I'm gonna go ahead and roll to the other side again just because the sun is kind of beating in on my eyeballs. All right, so I'm gonna put this lead right in this pocket. At this point, we don't have, we have a little bit of binding with that control surface. I don't like that. See how it's kind of touching? That I don't like, okay? But I don't know if I can totally eliminate it. It's just so dang tight in there. I guess we're gonna go with it. Okay, so obviously the elevator's not working and the ailerons are working and the rudder's working and the steerable's working, but we haven't verified the direction of travel. So I'm gonna do that right now. Roll left, roll right, elevator up, elevator down, can't tell. Yaw left, yaw right, steerable left, and right, excuse me. Okay, so everything's working with the exception of the elevator. We are not in safe, you can tell because it's not trying to auto level, which means the ailerons would be fighting when you get to about the halfway. So we'll go ahead and hook these up right now. We want these to be nice and square for now. We're supposed to be going to the outside hole. Okay. Then we're gonna slide this back. It's perfect already. I didn't have to adjust it at all, which is cool. This one I had to turn about a half a turn to get it to line up. That's square. Cool. Okay, elevator up, elevator down. So that's correct. Our steerable nose wheel is a little bit cattywampus. You see that? So I don't know. I think we'll probably try to adjust that right now. So I'll show you what we need to do to adjust that. Okay, in order to adjust that, that's adjusted here, okay? Because watch, the steerable is attached here. Now, the other thing is, I think the easiest way is probably to undo this and then unclip it, but you know what? Let's just see how bad it is. Ah, man, I kind of hate
If you unscrew this control horn and recenter it, does it matter where it bites on there?
No, because that's only keyed once.
Okay.
So you have to adjust it here. I'm just thinking that's going to be a bit of a pain. But what you could do is you could actually take the whole control horn off, and I think that's what I want to do. We're going to be just in time for our sunset flight, so hopefully we can get this done in time. See this Phillips screw? We're going to unscrew this here. Once it's loose, we'll pull that out all together, and then we're going to lift the whole thing off. I use a flat screwdriver so it's easier on my fingers because it's pretty small. Okay, so we've lifted it. I don't know if that was a huge savings now that I've done that, but just that little bit of play is all you need. So I'm going to slide this little tube back, the little fuel tube. I'm going to push down on the control horn. Not working. So I lifted up and I pulled it free. Now I can, remember it was pointed just a little bit towards you. So I want to screw this in. So I'm going to go like this. There's 1 half turn, 2 half turns, 3 half turns, 4 half turns, 5 half turns. Let's see how that looks. And then they wanted it to be in what hole, like the second or third? I don't know. Probably doesn't make that big of a difference. I just want to try to be as stock as possible so you guys get an idea of what we're looking at. Okay, that looks a lot better, but I feel like it's still going to veer to its own left. So I need to go ahead and pull that in a little bit more yet. So this is just like some of these nitpicky things that you wouldn't absolutely have to do. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I got 7. And I want to go another half just so that it goes upward. It's a little easier to manipulate into the hole that way. Okay, there we go. So if you guys like the content here on Brian Phillips RC while we're doing this, make sure you give us a like. Don't forget to buy those planes from the links when you have an opportunity. And we never ask you guys to buy stuff you don't like. And when we review stuff and it's terrible, we'll let you know. But generally speaking, it's not as terrible. It's only about as terrible in most cases as the amount of effort you want to put into a plane or not. And in our case, we're always in kind of a big hurry to get a video done, and we love flying these planes. But the planes that drive us nuts are the ones that should be easy to build that turn into a huge project where you're responsible as the builder to do tons of work. And for our current lifestyle, it doesn't work real good, but some of you guys are going to be retired or maybe have a lot of time to spend on a build. And for us, that's a big point of contention. So we really like them when they go together quick. And we know a lot of you guys have a similar lifestyle. Now, that may not be true for everybody, so we want to be sensitive to that. But let's look at this now. Elevator up, elevator down, yaw left, or roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right. Lots of rudder, geez. And very good. I think we're probably about right. We're maybe not perfect on the centeredness. So now let's talk about forward programming quick. Okay, so forward programming so we can make an assignment for safe. I'm going to go to servo setup first. The gear switch goes up, the gear switch goes down. Okay, so it's already attached to an active channel, so I'm going to go into forward programming. I'm going to click gyro settings, safe select, on. Okay, so safe is on there, and it's off there, correct? Now that means safe select is enabled, and then that's safe is on when safe is off when the stick is toward me. So what I want to do now is walk out of the menu. We're done with that. Now we can go to servo setup, travel, reverse, and just reverse that particular setting. So now safe is currently on when it's toward me, and it's off when it's away from me. Although I don't feel anything yet, so let's go ahead and try that again. Forward programming, gyro settings, safe select. Safe is on. Safe is off. AS3X is on. And you can actually turn that off. So you can do a 3-position switch and have it so that it's on and off. See how it's changing from flight mode 1 to flight mode 3? So that's all correct. So now, when I pull up on the elevator, see how it changed, how much it deflected? That's how you can tell when you're AS3X. It's got full range of motion, then about half, okay? The other way you can tell is we're upside down and there's nothing happening. When you're in safe, it's gonna try to find level. It's gonna find the quickest route to level is what it's gonna do. Okay, so we know that's working. That's cool, that was super simple. And as you can see, we've got all the radio set up and build done in probably what, like 20, 30 minutes of actual time. So we're gonna get out there and fly right now, yes?
After you set up reverse thrust.
After I set up reverse thrust, so
right?
If it works. So we're gonna try it right now. So, throttle cuts off. Pretty good amount of power. Okay, throttle cuts back on. First thing you do when you're trying to set it up is you're gonna take and scroll all the way to the right. Yep. Okay, so the smart ESC will let us in. Unplug. Plug it in. Up elevator. Left aileron. Or wait, that's right. Right? Oh no, wait, that's the right. I'm sorry guys, I get confused. Up elevator and left. Ah, I missed it. I'm sorry guys, I totally screwed the pooch on that one. I'm gonna unplug, I'm gonna plug back in, listen for 2 dances. 1 dance, 2 dances, safe is on. Okay, the safe select is on, that doesn't mean it's actually running. It's just activated. So that's gonna go from this left aileron to, it's gonna say right aileron. I have throttle cut on currently. Yeah, see, it's not letting me in right now.
Does your throttle cut have to be off so it knows it's low throttle?
No, generally not. So like I said, I don't even know if we have thrust reverse on this. We definitely have the ability to enter the menu. What does it say? After the first flight, you may attempt motor reversing is not enabled. Yeah, you have to enable it.
Yeah, which is how you do it.
Which is what I'm doing. Up elevator and left aileron. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so that is up elevator and left aileron.
Left aileron.
Okay, and you do have to do it within so many seconds, and that's why I keep resetting the power. So I'm gonna plug it back in. Okay, it's booted, everything's working. Okay, so down and over. That is to the left, right? I'm doing this right.
Yep, that's left.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and then this would be the next step. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I'm not seeing any feedback. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll back to that menu and try it again. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not happening. Okay, power off, power back on. So in this case, I'm gonna power down the full radio system, see if that makes any difference. My guess is it probably won't, and then we'll have to figure this out. So let's go ahead and power up the transmitter first. We're gonna go to monitor mode. Just verify we are definitely at minus 100%, so we should be good. I'm gonna scroll all the way. Oh, you can't even scroll yet because you haven't established connection to the telemetry yet. Okay, so it's plugged in. Scroll all the way over. Up elevator and left aileron. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's so weird. That's the first and only time we've ever had that happen. So now I'm gonna go into, well, let's see if we can go into system setup. There's telemetry. Let's try this. Telemetry, auto config. We'll auto config again, see if anything changes. Okay, walk out, and then we're gonna go to, where is that? We're gonna scroll all the way over, up elevator, left. 2, 3, 4, 5. It's always been really quick, like 2 or 3 seconds. Okay, so the other thing that could be going, I'm just gonna try for grins and giggles. Let's reboot, and one more try. Okay. Camera crew has an idea?
I'm trying to read the directions to see if they're different, if they changed it.
I'm trying it during the boot up process to see if anything changes. Nothing. Okay, same again. And we've done this a number of times, guys. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tell you how it's supposed to work. Elevator, up, and then all the way left. And after about 2 to 3 seconds, that word changes to right. Then you go to there. You can also watch our Habu SS 70 millimeter 4S, 6S configuration, and you can watch our setup. So I don't know if we have a problem with ours or if it's an actual setup issue. So we're gonna try to figure it out, but right now we're gonna pause and come back to it.